everybody, today I'm going to show you a very simple way to cast on 2 at a time socks on a single circular needle. Now I'm sure this is like a method with a name, I'm not sure what it is. I did originally learn how to knit these socks with the Judy's Magic cast on method, which is also fantastic, but I always found that when it was time for me to knit a pair of socks I could never remember it, so I started doing this and it has been working wonderfully for me. So I'm going to start by making a slip knot with the working yarn from my first ball. And I'm going to place it on the top needle. Once it is on here, I am going to just be wrapping the working yarn in a figure 8 type pattern while holding my needles parallel like this. So right now I have my loop on the top, so I'm going to come from behind for the bottom needle, go in front and behind the top, wrap it around, and we're going to keep on going until you have the number of loops on your needles that you need to start. So this is like in a circle. So like right now I have 4 on the top, do one more, so I have 4 on the bottom. So this would be like if your cast on was for 8 stitches. Now I want to cast on starting 16 stitches, so I'm going to continue on until I have 8 on each needle. So here I have 8 on each needle, and you could see it's not very secured. It would very easily come undone. So I'm going to put my thumb over top of my stitches while I pull the bottom needle out like you'd be knitting in magic loop, and I'm going to knit across this first row. And each one of these loops I am just going to knit into normally. We just have to be really careful that we don't lose these bottom ones. As you knit, you'll see they don't look like stitches yet, only those top ones are becoming stitches at this point. So knitting in, again, it looks really weird because it's wrapped around, but those bottom ones are not yet stitches. But we're going to continue on till our very first one, which is the slip knot here, knit in, and we're going to turn our work, push the top one in, and we are going to pull the bottom needle around to magic loop these top loops and turn them into stitches. Now, if we look here, there's one thing I like to do that you do not have to do. You can see it's a loop. If you do it in the front, it's going to make a little twist. I'm going to do it in the back, and it just looks like a stitch growing out of a stitch. Pull it tight here if you can, to help minimize the elongated stitches, but we're just going to stitch into each one. And this is what it looks like at this point. So this is the cast on for toe number 1. Now I'm going to just tuck this one and this ball to the side, and I'm going to repeat my process over here. Now the only tricky thing is we are using the cable as if it were the second needle. So I'll show you what I mean. Once again, I'm going to start by taking my other ball of yarn and making a slip knot. And I'm going to slide that onto the second needle. So once again, my setup has the toe I just made looped around over here, and over here I have my needle and the cable just twisted. This is a 32-inch cable, but that's about as small as I like to go, but you can go larger than that as well. So we are basically doing the same method. It's just a little more awkward this time because we have to deal with this toe already being there. So we're going to do the same thing where we wrap from behind and over and around. Doing that figure 8, you just have to do a little more management of your yarn because you have that other toe there. Once again, we are doing that figure 8 where we come from the back to the front, go through between, back to the front, keep on wrapping. And we do this so we have the same number of stitches, and I did 8 on each needle, so I'm doing 8 on the needle and 8 on the cable. You can see I have not been untwisting every stitch. If you are worried about your yarn management, then do that. Unloop it every time. And you can see it's getting twisted, so I'm just using that working ball and I'm just going to tidy us up by undoing it. Again, you can do this after every wrap or do a few and then untwist it a little bit. An alternate method, if you're a little concerned about the yarn tangling, is that for each wrap, just take your whole ball and wrap that ball to the back. And then you're coming around the front, take that whole ball as you wrap through, and that prevents those tangles from happening. Right, so now I have 8 loops on each of these, ending with my bottom one. Because I have the slip knot on the top, I'm ending with the bottom. So I am going to go through and knit all the stitches on my needle, and I'm just going to keep this so it is a loop on the bottom, but it's staying there. I've knit across that first row, and now it's going to be, again, magic loop style, where we push the cable through. Be really careful again, these are just loops right now, they're not stitches yet. I'm going to turn the work and pull the bottom needle. Now if you have to worry over here, these ones are getting a little tangled, we just want to keep the cable so that we have half the stitches on each cable. And this will be the same as we knit 2 at a time. If you've done that before, you deal with one, then the other, one, then the other. So it looks like this with the cable, toe number 1, toe number 2. But this toe we have to finish off because these are just, again, loops right now. They are not stitches yet. Pull the bottom needle through, and the same thing where if you knit from the front, which works, and I've done that before, it just makes a little crossover, a little twist in the front. So I do like to knit from the back loop as we go all the way across. So here we have it, both of the toes are started and we are ready to get going knitting. They both have 1 row of knits on them, and so we're going to start on the increased stitches for the toe and work our way around 2 at a time, magic loop.